The European nations that caused the outbreak of World War II all had oppressive leaders and oppressive form of governments. Years before World War II, these European nations were at peace, but harsh times in Europe led to the rise of fascist and communist regimes. Dictators such as Benito Mussolini, Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, and Francisco Franco all gained totalitarian power through a destabilized government. This is the narrative of how each oppressive European leader rose to power. We begin with Benito Mussolini, rallying up against Baltic nations. He claims that they must be conquered because they are inferior and are uncivilized human beings. Benito Mussolini overthrew the government with the support of thousands of people. His prime objective was to create a totalitarian state with him in charge. Any civilians or government officials who dared question Mussolini's authority were met with cruel punishments. He encouraged genocide within the Italian African colonies such as Libya and Ethiopia. He was a powerful force in Africa. His economic policies led to the creation of 5,000 new farms, 5 new agricultural towns. This was known as the Battle for Wheat. Benito Mussolini used nationalism to sway the people's decision to enlist in the military. He hoped to lead a military campaign in Eastern Europe and Northern Africa. His final dream was to restore the Roman Empire. This act of aggression would eventually lead up to Italy's involvement in World War II. Another notorious dictator rose to power in Europe. This man was known as Adolf Hitler. Inspired by Mussolini, Adolf Hitler tried to overthrow the German government, but failed and was jailed by the authorities. While Hitler was in prison, he wrote the book Mein Kampf, which blamed Germany's struggles on communism and the Jews. After the German elections, Hitler became Prime Minister of Germany. Hitler soon replaced democracy with fascism. Hitler violated the Treaty of Versailles, but was loved by the German people. He was influential, good with words, and brought hope to a disillusioned Germany. Hitler brought down unemployment by creating weapon factories and by building up the German military. The German economy was booming after decades of economic inflation. Despite his achievements, he was still a fascist dictator. He would strip the German people of their democratic rights, and he installed himself as the supreme leader of Germany. Worst of all, he persecuted minorities, and he was responsible for the death of over 6 million Jews. This became known as the Holocaust. Hitler's vision of a Nazi Germany filled with a superior Nazi race led to the conflict of World War II. Over in the Soviet Union, another brutal dictator would rise to power. He would use mass manipulation, political exiles, and assassinations to claim rulership. His name was Joseph Stalin. This all happened after the assassination of Leon Trotsky. Joseph Stalin was officially declared the next communist leader of the Soviet Union. Joseph Stalin would seize the people's land and would seize all means of production in order to increase his communistic efforts. Those who revolted against Stalin were silenced. Stalin was against those who conspired against him. Stalin ruled with an iron fist and sent millions to Russian concentration camps. He established the Russian economy consisting of coal, oil, steel, and electricity, which increased the means of production. Joseph Stalin was ill-tempered. He made people disappear. If you got on his bad side, you no longer existed. Joseph Stalin envisioned communist control over Eastern Europe. This would later drag him into World War II.
We're saved! What's your name, new hero?
It's Titan.
Thank you. Thank you. Titan has freed us!
Oh, I wouldn't say free. More like under new management.
And later down the line, this would cause another conflict known as the Cold War. Last but not least, a general by the name of Francisco Franco became dictator of Spain as a result of the Spanish Civil War. Francisco Franco ruled with a fascist-style government. He tore up the democratic constitution of Spain, and he treated the general public with little respect. He took advantage of a crippled Spanish government, and he did not create any effective changes in Spain at all. Under the fascist leadership of Francisco Franco, the government was terminating any political figure or military officer who was seen as a threat to Francisco's power. He was a ruthless man. Even with his efforts to establish a Spanish economy, he failed miserably because the Spanish government went bankrupt as soon as Francisco Franco seized power of Spain. There was no way Spain would be able to participate in World War II due to the severely damaged economy. Francisco Franco was left with nothing. Francisco Franco was the longest reigning fascist. He eventually died in the 1970s. Now we have a better understanding of how oppressive dictators conquered Europe. This would all eventually lead to the outbreak of World War II. That's all for today. Thank you and goodbye.